All right, welcome everybody to the Global Troop Town Hall. I'm your host, Coach Scott, and I have here with me Randy, the man, Hardy.
Hi, Ron.
Come on, you can do a better wave than that.
Hi, everyone.
I thought maybe you'd do a royal wave, queen wave.
Oh, paper wave.
There we go, paper wave. I also have here Steve Perrone.
Good evening.
And on the phone, maybe Holly, I'll get a picture of you next time, but we have Holly Hammond, who is the District Advancement Chair from the General Nash District. So say hello, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Great. So today's topic is special needs scouts. And I can either kick it over to you, Steve, or I can kick it over to Holly.
Well, let's start with just, over the years we've seen an increase in the number of scouts that have special needs. When you go to summer camp anymore, the scoutmaster has a footlocker just to carry the meds for the scouts. But these are scouts that need some help. And through medication, through treatment, those scouts have a wonderful time in scouting. They're entitled to all the benefits of any scout, be it advancement, serving on as their leaders in their troop. Whatever the regular scouts do, these scouts deserve the same thing. They do have some issues and problems, and that's why the council has a subcommittee of the Council Advancement Committee, which Holly serves on, and is here to help scouts or guide them, or the families actually. That's where most of the inquiries come from, I guess. Is that right, Holly?
Yes.
All right, so it's true. I know that when we've taken scouts to summer camp, that we have med call in the morning, and it is almost a footlocker full of meds, and the kids line up and they get their meds. And I know that I'm one of the scout leaders that takes care of special diets. So if they've got food allergies or intolerances or all kinds of things, we try and address that. And it adds not a whole lot of extra burden if you have enough leaders. But if you don't have enough leaders, wow, I can just imagine having to do all of that would really be a strain. Yeah. Holly, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think that in terms of the special needs scouts, there is sort of two aspects to it, right? One, how do you work with the scout and include them in all the activities, and then also what accommodations have to be made for advancement of those scouts.
Right. And we haven't even addressed, for instance, other issues. Honestly, I don't know what the medical terms are now. In my day, it was MHMR or attention deficit disorder. I don't know what they are now. So, Holly, if you've got some insight on that, but we have scouts in our troop that need special attention, that are good kids, but they need a little extra help, and get a bunch of those at summer camp, and that's even more work.
Right. I mean, there's a number of different deficits or disabilities that are disorders, ADHD, ADD, the autism spectrum disorders, and then physical disorders as well. Blind scouts, deaf scouts, other physical disabilities. They all have their different issues and different ways that you need to deal with those scouts, both for incorporating them into your program and in dealing with advancement issues.
Holly, for the most part, the scoutmasters haven't had a lot of experience dealing with these scouts, and they probably could use some help. I suspect the number one advocate for the scout would be the parents. So where might the parents go to get some kind of a documentation for how they go about getting accommodations for their scouts for like advancement?
Well, the parents are indeed the best source for the troop in how to deal with the scouts. There is a special needs committee at the council who is tasked with providing guidance or training to parents and leaders to provide the scouting program, and they can be contacted through Ryan Martin, who's the staff advisor for that committee at Cradle of Liberty Council. But other than that, in terms of helping for documentation of issues for advancement and stuff, the parents need to go to the medical professionals that they are dealing with the scouts. A medical doctor if it's a physical disability, psychologist or psychiatrist if it's developmental disorders, perhaps even the school counselors can be helpful in providing the appropriate information to help with documentation required for advancement or changes to advancement requirements for these scouts.
Now, in the troops themselves, do we have any sort of informal policy or anything that at least we request a parent be on site during meetings or anything like that if they have scout with special needs? Especially dramatic special needs.
Well, that's going to be up to the troop, and when you have a new boy, then you're probably going to want your parents there because they know how to deal with it. A scout that's been in a unit for a while, the leaders may be perfectly comfortable with dealing with his issues themselves.
Well, I think it's
anyone else has comments on that who works with boys in the troop.
I think it's important that the parents feel comfortable with the troop and the leaders. And Holly, I think you're right. Maybe for the first meeting, be there. Second meeting, perhaps, but they need to step back because this is kids growing on their own and learning how to interact. I think that's a huge part of special needs scouts and growing. We, Scott mentioned we have a few. But we also have a huge troop. That's why we have a huge Foot Locker because we take 50 boys, sometimes almost 60 boys to camp. So you're going to have a big Foot Locker. But I think the most important thing is for the parents to communicate with the leaders, let the leaders know any tricks, but then to step back, let the kid grow on his own. And we had a scout a few years back. It was the first year, it was the year before we joined, my son and I. And he had a problem with him at camp, and he needed a phone to go to sleep at night. And it was a huge problem for him. And the leaders were inflexible with that because of the electronics policy. And I don't think we'd ever encountered that. Well, by the second year that he went to camp, it was our first year, they had conceded that. And he was much better. The phone, for whatever reason, it was a panacea for him. It calmed him down. It was his coping mechanism.
Security blanket.
Security blanket, thank you. And now that scout is, 5 years into scouting. He is a success story. I took him on the camporee. And
did he need a phone?
He didn't need the phone. He had it. He was smiling, he was happy, he was interacting with the younger kids. So my point is, let the kid grow. Let him venture out on his own. But,
and of course, it's always going to depend on the type and the severity of the disability for that to be possible. But sometimes, we have a unit in our district where I know the scout, and his father is one of the leaders. So he can be there and working with other scouts, let his scout be off, but he's there if needed. So
right, we had one of those as well,
Yeah.
who used to go to every trip and every summer camp that his son was on, and he really monitored him closely, but still sort of monitored him from the sidelines so that he could grow, but he had an anchor.
and I think I know who you're talking about. I entered a belly flop competition with him.
I don't remember
At
that.
Camp Freedom, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
When he broke off from his dad, and I had sort of made an inroad with him. He was pretty shy, and he did not want to interact with any of the other leaders. But for whatever reason, probably because I'm a goofball, he felt comfortable around me, and he said, Mr. Hardy, I want to enter the belly flop competition with you. Be my partner." And
Awesome.
Yeah, it was a good time until I hit the water.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, Holly? What do you think troops should do if they don't have the number of leaders that we do, and they end up getting a special needs scout?
Well, I think that's where they really need to enlist the parents' help.
Well, all troops need to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Holly, as these scouts would advance, there's some requirements that they cannot meet. How do we find out? How does a troop find out about alternate requirements that might be permitted for a scout with special needs?
So the best source for that is actually the Guide for Advancement. And Section 10 of the Guide for Advancement deals with advancement for members with special needs, and talks about the rules and requirements for any accommodations that are made.
And how would a troop document that the scout is following a different path, so that eventually when they start reaching Star, Life, and Eagle, they might have to do some alternate merit badges, and then when the paperwork goes in for Eagle, someone at council is able to be scratching their head. How would they?
Well, there are specific requirements. So if there are things that cannot be done in the lower ranks requirements up through first class, then the troop needs to request in writing from the Council Advancement Committee what the requirements are, what changes in the requirements they want to make to accommodate that scout. And that's going to depend on what the scout's disability is. And that needs to be documented by letters from the troop, letters from the parents, letters from the scout himself, if that's possible, and also documentation from a medical professional if it's a physical disability, or a psychologist, psychiatrist if it's a developmental disability, that specifies what the scout cannot do and essentially why. And that's supplied to the Council Advancement Committee. If they approve that, then they'll provide a document back to the troop, stating that the alternate requirements are approved. Now that's up through first class, and that essentially stays with the troop and the Council Advancement Committee, and no problem. When you get into the higher rank advancement, Star, Life, and Eagle, there are no changes allowed to the requirements for each badge.
Really?
What you do get into is that there may be one or more of the required merit badges for Eagle that the scout cannot accomplish. In that case, the unit, the parents, the scout can try to determine another merit badge that's going to be a comparable challenge as the one that they're trying to replace, that could be used as an alternate. And they would apply to the Council Advancement Committee for that merit badge to take the place of the Eagle required merit badge. Now this has to be a merit badge that the scout has not already earned, and sometimes that's a problem, that people need to think ahead. When you know you have a scout that's going to have issues with it, you really need to sort of plan ahead and have a plan of how you're going to attack the advancement, and know, well, we're not going to be able to do that merit badge, so come up with one that you can do that could replace it, and don't do it until you get to that point. What is requested is that you do all of the Eagle required ones that you can before you apply, unless it's something that is just very visible, absolutely they couldn't do, and there's no question about it, like, perhaps swimming with someone who has a physical disability, and there's absolutely no way that they could do the swimming merit badge, and you needed an alternative for that.
Holly, I imagine that we have some scouts with developmentally delayed that probably are not going to make Eagle by the age of 18. Is there some mechanism in place where perhaps they can get an extension of time beyond their 18th birthday?
Well, there is a classification of scout of that are members registered beyond the age of eligibility. But that is really not a mechanism to obtain your Eagle past 18. It's really for, it's intended for as a permanent arrangement to allow ongoing participation as a youth member in the scouting program. And it's for people who have permanent and severe disabilities that preclude advancement even at a rate that's significantly slower than normal. So it seems that sometimes we get applications for this that sort of seem like, well, we're not going to make it to Eagle, so we're applying for this, and that is not its purpose. If your scout has a permanent disability and it is severe, and he's like, usually it's developmental disabilities that this applies to, that he's cognitively never really going to be older than 18. He can stay as a youth member of the Scouts, and that's the purpose of it. He can continue to benefit from the scouting program for as long as he cares to remain a member. And that does allow them to have, as long as they need and as long as they stay registered, to continue advancing. And they typically advance at a very, very slow rate when they're this disabled, and can earn their Eagle much later than their 18th birthday. And this should be applied for sooner rather than later. In fact, the latest Advancement News, the March, April, May, June 2018 Advancement News, has an article specifically about that, and reminds people that you shouldn't be waiting for a scout to nearly age out, and that before you apply for registration beyond the age of eligibility, because this is something that's permanent and severe, and you know about it well ahead of time.
Holly, is there any place where the unit leaders, packs, troops, ships, whatever, ventures, can maybe get some training on how to best deal with their scouts, to best help them remain in the program, remain active, and do whatever they can to help these scouts? Is there anywhere we can go for some training?
I'm not sure, actually.
So we don't have anything at the council level?
I'm not aware of any specific training for this. There may be some, but I'm not actually aware of that. The Guide to Advancement gives the rules. I would get with your district advancement chairman and work with them and interface with the council committee if necessary to find out what else might be needed.
That Guide to Advancement, that gets updated every couple of years?
Typically, yes.
Every unit should have one. It's an invaluable tool.
So there's nothing online, for instance. I mean, we have all this youth protection. We have no resources for
Well, I'm not
special.
going to say there aren't any. I don't know what they are.
I'm gonna have to go look. I mean, there's got to be something, and if not for scouts, I bet there's something else out there.
Oh, I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of material online, but I'm not aware of a specific training with scouts. Steve, are you familiar with that specific training?
No, I'm not really aware of any, specific BSA training, and this isn't an area that I've been involved with. So, I was just wondering if maybe you had run across it at some point.
I think 512, we've been pretty lucky in that when we have scouts with real special needs, that the parent is there, and the parent has the training and the experience to take care of their son.
I know that's not the case everywhere.
No.
Right.
At Roundtable about 2 months ago, I ran into a Mike. I'm gonna butcher his name, and I tried to reach out to him today because I, found out late we were going to do this topic. Mike
DeStefano.
DeStefano, thank you.
Yeah.
And at any rate, I sent him a text. I guess he didn't get it today.
Yeah.
But,
Mike's passionate about this topic.
Yes,
Yeah.
he is. And I think we'll probably have another topic or another show on this topic as well, because it deserves more mentioning. And we can revisit, is there training? Can we find training? Because that's something we should get out there to people. There's so much with scouting that, I just call Steve Perrone, to be honest. He's my go-to guy.
There are some other written tools from BSA. There's booklets, Scouting with Special Needs and Disabilities Information, Scouting for Youth with Disabilities Manual. So there are some written
So we do have resources.
things from BSA, but I'm not aware of a specific training per se.
Right.
Okay.
And I think if you're a leader, if you're involved in scouts, then you've got a good heart. Trust your instincts is my advice.
Yeah.
Of course, learn everything you can, but just trust your instincts.
Mhm.
And don't be rigid. Be flexible.
Randy, you've nailed it. This is an important topic, and it really deserves further follow-up. And I'm wondering if when we have our annual area conferences, maybe this should be a topic we can get the best of our 11 councils in Area 5 and find out who is an expert in this area. And maybe this would be a topic that would actually fill a classroom with interested people.
Yeah.
One resource that is available from the BSA is sort of a tool that they've put out that's called an Individual Scout Advancement Plan for helping people sort of work through what's going to be needed for advancement for that. So it's kind of following along the school's individual education plan and using this individual scout advancement plan to work through what the issues may be and what needs to be done and just to set forth a plan from the beginning. And if these scouts, especially if they really want to go through the advancement portion of it, it's important to figure it out and plan how you're going to do that and what requirements you're going to need ahead of time instead of trying to do it at the end. A lot of disabled scouts can advance to Eagle, with just accommodations in the merit badges or perhaps in some of the earlier rank advancements, and can still get their Eagles by the time they're 80, and then they're 18.
There's still hope for you, Steve.
The other, the ones that have the severe disabilities and have registered beyond the age of 18, they also need a plan because I know one unit in my district had a disabled scout. They were doing, he was physically disabled, and so they were doing it merit badges that he could do right from the beginning, but they hadn't planned ahead. And so as he was advancing and got to the Eagle required merit badges, they had run out of merit badges that he could do that they could replace them with. And, so it was a struggle in that and made it more difficult, at the end than it should have been. And if they had planned ahead
that's every scout.
They could have done it more easily.
But that's important for we as leaders to understand as
Yeah.
well, because if we have a special needs scout and he expresses a desire to go for Eagle, then we need. I would, without your advice there, Holly, I would have just gone along the path like you said people do, and then at the end tried to wangle things. But wangle, yeah, wangle.
Yes.
So better to make a plan and say, okay, let's figure out what we can substitute for what at the beginning. Of course, that also requires that individual scout to say, I want to go for Eagle as well. So many scouts, they don't really let you know, and they...
A lot of them don't even know they want to go for Eagle.
Right.
They're just having a great time, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
No, and not every scout needs to get Eagle, to benefit from the scouting program.
Correct.
Getting Eagle advancing is not everything that's about. It's just one portion of scouting.
Yeah. Do you guys recall at a recent Eagle Court of Honor, Steve Neiman, our scoutmaster, was talking about a hike that two scouts in particular were doing up a mountain, and one of them was a disabled scout, and he was going a little slower and having a more difficult time, but he was so very determined to complete the hike, and another scout stayed back and helped him.
Yep.
And that was
great
quite a story, because at the end of the day, the scout made it. He had a wonderful time, and when he got home, he told his parents that he had a new friend, and his buddy went on to
Earn Eagle.
become Eagle, but he also went on to become in college to take special education, something that he had that experience, and it opened up his eyes. It's a wonderful story.
Yeah, it's a great story.
Then there's the other story of where the scout had to carry the big stone all the way up the mountain, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Well, we are coming towards the close of the show. Holly, was there anything else that you're interested in letting us know about, or that we should know about it?
Oh, I think we've covered the major issues. It's just planning ahead is the biggest thing, and documentation. If you're recognized that you have a scout that should register beyond the age of eligibility because he has a severe developmental or even physical disability that would keep him as a youth member, get it documented from the start. There is an application for that registration. It has specific required documents, letters from the parents, youth membership. If he's already a member, then proof of membership, the BSA annual medical health and medical record form, and then signed statements from their qualified health professionals that attest to the nature of the disability. So a licensed physician if it's physical disabilities, or a psychologist or psychiatrist, or other specialists for related cognitive disabilities. Then they need letter from the unit leader and any other supporting document. An IEP from the school can be useful in
It sounds like it's
providing more information to the council committee for the decision to be made if he can be registered beyond the age of eligibility.
Right. It sounds as if it's a little bit of work there, so there's got to be a balance then of how long you wait. You wouldn't want to start as a tenderfoot because they may decide they don't want to continue on in the program, but I suppose first class-ish?
There's no harm in them having registered, and if they decide they don't want to continue, that's not a problem. It's better to get them registered with that and with registered with that disability code earlier than later. And it's the ones that come up and are trying to do this when they're 17 that really become problematic as to making the decision and getting the information in a timely manner.
Okay, so I guess it's more weigh the age as opposed to weigh the rank, right? So 15-ish sort of would be a good age.
Right.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you very much, Holly.
Yes, thank you, Holly.
Well, you're welcome.
We couldn't have done this without you tonight.
No.
Terrific. Great. Any last comments from Randy or Steve?
No.
No? All right.
Got nothing.
Well, then, thank you all for participating in the Global Troop Town Hall tonight, and we will see you next time.